Hello and good morning and good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining from. Welcome to another week. It feels like the last week just flew by. I don't really know what happened to it, but here we are again. So again, if you are just joining for us, go ahead and say where you are joining from in the chat, and I will put up our map. And just like last week afterwards, I'm going to collect all of the little dots and put them on my physical version of the map, which I now keep on the table here. Good to see everybody here. It looks like a lot of familiar faces and a couple of new faces. Thank you all for joining. If you are just joining for the first time, I am just here to chat and talk about live streaming gear, talk about live streaming equipment, techniques, tips, ATEM Mini, other devices, anything you've got. So go ahead and throw questions my way. And if you do have a specific question for me, it's going to stand out in the chat. If you mention my name at Aaron Parecki, then it shows up orange on my screen and it's a lot easier for me to see it. And I'll make sure to just go through the chat, answer questions, see what we've got going on, and hopefully have a fun time today. So it looks like a great crowd. Again, thanks everybody for joining. And with that, I guess let me take a sip of coffee and then we'll get going. Things are mostly back to normal here on with my studio setup. So I'm trying to just sort of get this workflow down so I can just pop in here and turn this on without too much effort. So not a lot has changed. However, I do have one new thing here, which I am borrowing the technique from Tommy Calloway's channel, who I've been watching. I've been enjoying his late night streams. 10 p.m. though is like I'm about ready for bed, so I'm usually just like on my way to bed while I'm catching his stream. But the new thing that I am stealing from his channel is this view now moves, because who doesn't like a little bit of motion in a shot, right? And we don't see that with live streams often, so I figure why not throw this camera on a slider, and now we can have this nice little panning shot. So it seems to want to focus on this globe. Let me put that back there. But yeah, so I thought that was kind of fun and decided to just stick that shot on that slider, and we'll see how it goes. Yeah, it's funny. I actually had that in my gear closet for quite a while and hadn't been using it for much lately. So this is a good use for it, I guess. All right, let me switch back over to the chat so we can see the questions, see the chat here. And chat, there we go, cool. Simon says, where's the jacket this week? The bright pink sparkly jacket is only for special occasions. So maybe if I hit 20K, maybe it'll come back. We'll see. All right, let me scroll, see if I missed any questions at the beginning. This is a great one to start with. Any tips for using a video assist with the ATEM Mini for playback in place of a Hyperdeck, as my Hyperdeck is still on back order? Need to do something. You do need to do something. The Hyperdeck, for some reason, has just been sold out everywhere, and it's not like a new device, so it's just a solid thing, and everybody needs one. So yeah, they've been super not available almost anywhere. I do think, I know I heard DVE Store got some in, but I'm not sure if they are now already sold out. Ooh, I think they do have them in right now. So yeah, let me drop this link in. I don't know, I guess they won't ship outside of the US, so it's not gonna help you if you are out of the US, but if you are in the US, there's at least some in stock there. But video assist, yes, that's fine. It's kind of similar to the Hyperdeck, except it doesn't have the Ethernet port, so there's no way to remote control it from the ATEM Mini. The real benefit of the Hyperdeck is that it can be controlled from the ATEM Mini. Otherwise, it's just a very fancy media player with a couple of weird limitations, like all the files have to be the exact same format on the drive. SD card, not drive. And I think the video assist is similar like that, but there's no remote control of it. There is, however, a project that Jonas made, I think I saw him in the chat here, and he has a software you can run on a Raspberry Pi to make a Raspberry Pi emulate a Hyperdeck. So your ATEM Mini will see it as a Hyperdeck, except it's actually running on a Raspberry Pi. And then it's actually much more flexible, and you don't need all your clips to be the same size and all that stuff. So that is, I thought I had that link up here. And I put it in, it might be in the description of this because I think I copied the description from last week. Let me see. Anyway, that is a great project, and that is definitely worth looking into. There it is. The link is in the description. And yes, I left it in there from last week. Thanks, Jonas. So the reason that is cool is because the software is relatively affordable, and so is a Raspberry Pi. So it's a decent option for if you don't have a Hyperdeck, but you want that automated playback. Now, if you don't need it to be triggered by the ATEM, if you are willing to manually start and stop, you have tons of options. Video assist is fine, but you are going to have to start and stop the clip manually. There's also plenty of other HDMI players. I use one for like a sponsor reel at a conference where it's just like an infinite loop of a minute clip. It's this little, what's it called? Mica Spec. I probably have that link in my description. No, not this one. But that's another good device. But again, that's even worse for manually selecting clips compared to a video assist. So here is the other link. Oh yeah, iMix 16. We've had a bunch of discussions about that in the last couple of weeks, and that is another good option. So you can load clips onto an iPad and then tap to playback graphics. Really cool. All right, let me keep going through the questions. What slider am I using? This one is actually a very cheap slider. It's called Grip Gear. I should have thought to put that link in here too. I don't actually know if they still sell it, come to think of it. I've had it for a while. It says currently not available. So yeah, I don't know if it's actually still for sale anywhere. Not seeing it. Anyway, it's like, here, let me see if I can get my iPhone camera to work. From my Apple TV. To my Apple TV. Do I have the Apple TV plugged in? I don't, because I've been testing out too many different things. I thought that's one of those I just assumed was always plugged in here, and apparently I've been... Oh, it was when I did the Hyperdeck. Because now or the Raspberry Pi, because now I've got that running in here. Well, too bad. I don't have the cable easily accessible, so I'm not going to try to do that. Anyway, it's very flimsy. It is not strong. It would not hold up a DSLR, but it does hold up the little Sony ZV-1, and that's great. So here, it's all wireless. I'll just bring it into the frame. This is what it looks like. So it's just this little, slowly moving back and forth, little rig. It's got this little clip on it so you can control where it starts and stops. And then it just auto, bounces back. There is no remote control of this thing. Like, it's just this device. You can control the speed from the buttons on the top. But hey, it works. Nothing fancy. It was not terribly expensive, which is cool. See if I can get that back in the right spot. Renee says, did you try the update 8.5? I did install it on one of them. I haven't installed it on this one yet. The update was for adding support for the streaming bridge. Yes. And I think that just means that they needed to get some software in there before it'll work with the streaming bridge. Hopefully that means they're going to start shipping them soon. And that is exciting. But yeah, as far as like what the update does, other than that, not much. They apparently fixed some sync issues with if you've been using the ATEM Mini over USB into something like Zoom or one of those meeting software, then after like 2 hours, the audio and video have been getting out of sync, and I've been hearing lots of people reporting on that. So apparently this is supposed to fix that as well. So definitely go take a look at that and install that if you haven't. And the other thing it fixed, which I mentioned this last week, which I think is really funny. Remember how I was showing this menu up here where we were like, okay, you can load streaming settings in, and then it'll make. Let me go over to the one so I can actually show you without revealing my streaming key. I wish they would just star that out. That's another feature request. That's not the right button. I want the output here to not show this on the screen. I want it to be starred out so I can show you the screen. So this list is what's now built in. So they added a couple here. They added Restream itself natively, which is cool. But if you load streaming settings, and then let's see, do I have a streaming setting? Let's see, this might be one. No, probably not. It's probably this one. Yes, okay. So now what that does is it adds this one here called Raspberry Pi, right? Now, how do I get rid of it? Well, actually, first of all, I don't know if you can see that. It's really small. If you look really closely, it's separated out now by a line. So the ones that are built in my streaming.xml file are here. The ones I've added to the software are now below it. Separated by a little line. How do I get rid of this, right? So if you keep loading these streaming settings in, this is just going to keep growing, and that doesn't get written into your streaming.xml. So the interface was just getting cluttered up. But now you can go here and say remove all imported settings, and then it clears out from the list. So I just think it's funny that I literally mentioned that last week. I was like, oh, yeah, it just gets stuck. So cool that they fixed that. Other than that, I haven't seen much new. So hopefully that means they're shipping the streaming bridges very soon. All right. Did I get any feedback from Blackmagic about my great birthday wish for the perfect ATEM Mini? No, they're not going to tell anybody what they're doing. That's just not how they work. Some sort of garbage truck outside. Downloaded Jonas' software and installed on a Pi after your video. Great workaround and worth supporting. Awesome. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, it's a super cool project. Speaking of that, Bob says, I bought a Raspberry Pi and Play Up E because of your previous stream. Can you go over setting things up? So if you get the image from Jonas, and if you just email him, he'll send you the image. You can actually burn the image itself onto a SD card, and then you have 0 to install, and it just turns on and it works. And that's about it. So the only thing you need to do is you need to know the IP address of your Raspberry Pi. And depending on how your network is set up, different ways to do it by going into your router, or you can log into the Pi and check there. Then you just connect it to your ATEM Mini software like any other Hyperdeck. So that's the easiest way to do it. You can also install the software yourself on the Pi, but then you have to do a little bit more work to make sure it starts up on boot and things like that. So it's easiest to just install the image, which is how I did it, because then I just I pop it into the Pi and it turns on and it's up and running. Okay. John says, we had 2 very successful live streams in Glasgow using StreamYard. Following your demo, link up with Curtis. Can you control StreamYard with the Stream Deck? So StreamYard is a web-based app, completely web-based. All the switching is done in their cloud, and it's controlled from anybody who's logged into that account in a browser. The only way it would work through the Stream Deck is if the Stream Deck has a way to, I don't think this is possible, because StreamYard would need to first of all support keyboard shortcuts, and you need to use Stream Deck to program it with those keyboard shortcuts to press keys in your browser. But you're not going to be able to like hook it up so that the browser would have to always be in front in order for that to work. So I don't think StreamYard supports keyboard shortcuts. I haven't seen that. I could be wrong, but yeah. How did you make your picture-in-picture a circle at the start of the stream? So I realized that there was this tab in the ATEM Mini software that I'd never been using. I'll show this really quick because this is now it's in a macro now. So like now that I'm got this all programmed in, it's a macro, so it just goes to this scene. But the way that you do it is it's in the upstream key setting. It's this pattern tab, and I was like, why would anybody want these silly patterns? But then I realized that it's actually kind of cool to be like in different shapes. So that way it's not just always a flat rectangle. So that's pretty cool. And then I just want, you know, like every other macro, I program it in so that it is available with one button. Russell says, can you remind me the link to your HDMI splitter? And yes, I can. That is, so I will say that, caveat, I'm not sure this is the same splitter anymore, because the product has been updated to say latest version 2020. And they also now say that it supports HDCP, which is not what you want in order for it to remove HDCP. So I'm not actually sure this is the same one anymore, unfortunately. Rick says the Mica spec is kind of clunky. Yeah, it is. It absolutely is. The only thing it's good for is long-running video clips. If you just want a video to play on an infinite loop, and it's like one of those long looping like credits or a sponsor reel or something, it's perfect for that because you put a 4 GB SD card in it that you just have somewhere and set it to auto play when it turns on. And then as soon as you power it up, it's just on. It just goes, and you don't have to do anything. You don't have to press any buttons. You can get rid of the remote, and it's great. That's what it's for. It's terrible if you're trying to actually like select individual clips because you have to use the remote and it's an on-screen menu like a TV basically. So, but for like long-running clips that are just always running and doesn't matter where or when it starts and stops, perfect for that. Synergy says, with the ATEM Mini ISO, I have bad quality PowerPoint when using USB-C for webcam to Zoom. Do you know why? Yes, so it's not the ATEM's fault. It's the fact that Zoom is compressing video because it assumes it's video. However, Zoom has been doing a ton of updates, and they've been doing a lot of work to make it work in more different kinds of scenarios. So if you go into Zoom, let's see, there is, plug in the Blackmagic. If you go into Zoom, there's a couple of, sorry for the infinite tunneling, a couple of interesting settings you might want to change. Let me do that. Okay. So first of all, it's going to look like this when you first turn it on because it defaults to mirrored so that when you move, it matches what you see. It looks like a mirror, right? Where you don't want to see yourself moving the opposite direction because then it looks backwards to you and you're like, oh, trying to touch that side of your head, but it's actually the other side. So if you are, this does not affect what's getting sent out over Zoom, right? This is just what you see, but it can be really confusing when you're trying to share text in Zoom, like for example, this. So if you uncheck that, then it looks like backwards, your movement looks backwards to you, but all the text is the right direction. Again, that's just for you, what you see though. There's a setting in here, enable HD, first of all. So if you turn that on, then it's going to at least have the possibility of sending your full HD feed from your ATEM into Zoom. Then you probably also want to do things like on the microphone side, if you are sending good quality audio and you've already tuned your audio in the ATEM, then you probably want to uncheck the microphone volume and have it not suppress background noise. And there's actually a setting in here in the advanced. If you go show in meeting option to enable original sound, then you can turn off all of these audio corrections that it does. So you have to make sure that, like, this is going to turn off all of Zoom's fancy stuff it's doing to fix people's terrible audio. So you have to make sure you're sending good audio into it. Like, make sure you're not using speakers in a room with a room microphone, because then you're going to send feedback if you disable echo cancellation. But this high fidelity music mode means it'll actually not downsample the audio, which is cool, and you can have it send stereo also. So if you do this, then it becomes much better quality that you are sending over Zoom. Now, all that said, there's still no guarantee that Zoom is going to show your video from the camera at this quality. So there's always other factors of, like, the viewer's bandwidth, it might be downscaling it for that, whatever. There's no guarantee. And that's why there's the share screen, right? Because when you share screen, they prioritize crisp text and crisp edges and deprioritize motion. So that's why, like, I stopped sharing my screen through my camera back in March, because that was when everybody started using Zoom and they had to start downscaling everybody's video, so it looked terrible. But I am actually curious now to try, now that they've, like, got these HD options and things like that. But the share screen option, if you actually share your screen natively from Zoom, that's the only way to actually guarantee that your slides and your text are going to show up the way that you want, because Zoom understands that that is the intent of whatever that video image is, and it won't then downscale it. So anyway, that was a long answer. I hope that was helpful. Robert says, will you put the link in for the portable network router that I use? Yes. That one is, let's see if I can find router. It is the gl.inet, don't know why, travel router. And that thing is cool. That's this little thing. So it's got one port for internet, two for local network, so you plug your ATEM into one of those. It also broadcasts Wi-Fi, so you can join from your phone or an iPad or computer, and super cool for that. Okay, let me see if there's any. Let me scroll back down to see if there's anything about what I was talking about Zoom. Andre said, I contacted Zoom for the HD video, and they wrote back and said that they've disabled it during COVID-19. Yeah, but I heard recently that they have also enabled it again in some cases. It might be that, like, only certain types of accounts get it, like only business accounts. Yeah, like everybody is saying, there's no guarantee that Zoom is going to send full HD video to everybody. That's not how it works. So there's probably just nothing you can do except sharing your screen, like actually doing a screen share. Probably for the high tier business accounts, probably, yeah. And my work account is a very expensive business account, I'm sure. All right, what else? Where was I? Okay, yeah, scrolling back up. The picture is a little unsharp. My picture? Did I move out of position and go out of focus? I'm in manual focus. Let's try to autofocus again. Oh yeah, this is the only other problem with the G7 is that when it does autofocus, it messes with your exposure settings during the autofocus. Whereas some of the fancier ones can do autofocus without messing with it. That's why my picture got darker. Hopefully this is a little sharper. Okay, yeah, you need the high tier account. Yep. Otherwise, yep, streaming to private YouTube, or there's other platforms that are like more suited for that sort of broadcast with, you know, requiring logins and things like that. Mike says, how much prep time do you try to allow yourself to set up for a typical small conference recording? This is a great question. So for the one I've been doing most recently and most often is Donut.js in Portland. It's about, like, I would say 50 people or so usually, and it's in just one like small-ish event space, and that's where I've been either like rolling in super quick because I've got everything down, or I use it to experiment with new gear. And if I know what I'm bringing and have it all prepped, and like I know all the wires are in the kit, then I usually I'm able to set up in under an hour. So I get there less than an hour before and set everything up. And that's because it's because I've got the kit down and I've done it so many times. If I am trying to set up for I don't know if that's what you mean by small conference. That's a very small event. If it's a small conference that's like, I don't know, a couple hundred people in like a larger auditorium style room, where I might have to then actually like run a cable. As soon as I have to run cables, I try to build in a lot more time, because that's gonna, like, stuff can go wrong, right? You might not be able to get through because other people are trying to set up chairs or something, so you have to wait. Anyway, for that kind of thing, I try to do even longer, so that'll be at least 2 or 3 hours. Thanks, John. Thanks for the super chat. I just saw my lights change. No question, though. I appreciate it. This is a great way, by the way, to make me skip ahead in the chat if you want me to get to your question, because it turns my lights different colors, and then I will see it and go find you in the chat. Otherwise, I'm just gonna go through the chat in order. But thanks, John, I appreciate it. All right, yeah, so Zoom and, oh, I missed a bunch. Okay, there we go. Thanks for the tip on removing the streaming settings. Yeah, mine was already getting cluttered, and I've barely started to try this. You know, this product is indeed great, but you need to be a bit of a techie. No, if you get the image, it's literally just like, go get the software from raspberrypi.org. I should do a video about this, because it was like, I didn't think it was worth doing a video because it was so simple. But you really do just go get the software from raspberrypi.org that you can use to burn an image, pop in the SD card, hit the button that says go, and then put the SD card into the Pi, and it turns on and it's working. It's really not bad. But yes, it is a little bit more complicated than the streaming bridge itself, because Blackmagic is doing a couple of extra little tricks to make that work easier. Where'd you get your stand for the ATEM Mini? Oh yeah, this little stand is you can see back here, it's tilting up. Oops, let me get rid of that one. This one's flat on the desk, and then this one is tilted up with a little stand. And that is a 3D printed little bracket thing. And I think there's a link, actually. I think I did that. Let me see if I put a link in here, because the 3D printed stand. Oh, I did not put it in this one. Okay, it's in some of my other videos. I'll see if I can dig it up. I just realized that I don't have my normal file open of all my other links that are not on the Genius links. The Thingiverse is the, oh yeah, here it is. Okay, it's in my browser history. So this is what it looks like. And if you look at the side view, I should show you my computer screen for that. So that's what it looks like, where you've got the little riser, tip it at an angle, And then actually the one I have is a variant in this file, in this project. There's a different version. It's 3.4. And the reason I asked them to actually make a little variation on it that makes this a little bit taller so that the other cables can slip in under the one that's raised up. That way I can have them stacked like that. So I'll drop this link in. 3D printed ATEM Mini stand. Very cool. I mean, like, you can order it from printers online, or if you have a friend with a 3D printer, you can get one. Otherwise, I don't know. It's how else to get one. Michael says, do you use H2R graphics for the YouTube comments? Nope, I'm still on my hacky CSS thing, and CSS JavaScript hack that is a browser extension that modifies the YouTube live chat window. So I'm actually like on the live chat pop out and it restyles everything to do this. And I don't know why I keep sticking with this one. H2R graphics is definitely like a proper solution for it. And yet I don't know. I just like this one. The Osho says, can you change the bitrate to stream in higher quality through XML? You definitely can. And I think I have my streaming XML file here. It's relatively easily accessible. And I can show you the way that it works is, all right. I should let you see the B-roll shot while I'm getting my computer in order. Streaming.xml. So what you can do in this is you can define not just like a different host name, but you can define the bit rates here. So by default, it'll be 9 megabits a second at 60 frames and 6 at 30. But you can make your own settings. So you can just be like, actually, I want streaming extra high. And then you tell it 1080p, 60 frames a second. You give it like 12 megabits, and then you can up that to like 9. And then this will show up, if you load this in, this will show up in the ATEM software control output option. It'll show up under a quality setting. So we choose, like, it'll show up as another option here. You can also just stream at Hyperdeck low, which is already 12. So up to you. Different options there. But yeah, you can totally customize that in the XML. All right. Oh, this is a good one. I recently updated my Mini Pro to the 8.4 software and firmware update, and recording directly to a hard drive, my audio sounds terrible. I've heard of this happening, and I think what's happening is that something is not getting, when you do the restore, something about the settings doesn't get like baked in right, and like resets. If you just go and choose a recording setting again in the software, that should fix it. I did test this and it 100% fixed it. The ground loop isolator, it definitely fixed it. Although today I was streaming from the music's coming off of this little MP3 player. Old school, right? Little, you can still buy these. They're really cheap now. And this one is, I don't need to power it because the battery lasts forever. So no ground loop issue. Can you talk about how to use the ATEM Mini to make my voice sound sexier, deeper, like a radio DJ? We can try. Let's see. So this is going to be annoying listening to myself with a delay. So what I'm going to do Now I can't not have a delay on it because it's going through the camera. Oh, and I can hear a little, my settings aren't quite right. Let's try to fix that. Try to make it not flap. Okay, it's a little better. The settings that you have, though, are EQ. And I don't have any EQ on this because I think it sounds fine without it. But if you start messing with this, you can try to like boost the bass in your voice and maybe find the use one of these. Find the part of your voice that's really harsh, that you don't like the sound of, like it's going to be probably around here for me, and then remove that. And now, ooh, that sounds a lot better. Sounds like a much more expensive microphone. What do you think? Is that a better sound? Should I leave it like this, or should I go back? Anyway, that's basically what you do, right? You play with EQ. It's hard to do it live because I'm hearing myself in addition to hearing me through the headphones. So it's probably better to record yourself and then listen back to recordings. Roland says you need to add a little bit of air on the high end. Audio back, please. Okay. Yeah, I went a little overboard. Again, it's hard to hear when you are getting a bass hum. Oh, yeah. That's because somebody's running an appliance somewhere. I think the dishwasher might be on, which is the hum that you're hearing in the bass. All right. I'll put that back. The little flapping, though, is annoying. I want to see if I can cut that out. See, if I just turn these off, then probably tone that down a bit. This is with no adjustments really now. But there's a lot more just sort of background ambient noise, so I try to get rid of that like that. Except when there's more noise in there than I expect, then this flapping sounds bad. Okay. Back to normal. Where was I? Yeah, better to get rid of the headphones. It's so distracting hearing yourself with a 3-frame delay. Better to find a friend with a 3D printer. Yeah, I keep wanting to order something from, what's the software, or the website that prints shapeways. But every time I price something out, it's just like so expensive. This is also a very good point. Go check out Curtis Judd. His channel, he has a lot of good free videos. He also has a course about tuning audio. So he's way better at this than me. I'm just pretending to know what I'm talking about with audio. Okay, let's get something I do know about. This is a great question. What's the best way to bring a guest in? Would it be better to use StreamYard or Ecamm Live to do that instead of the ATEM? So StreamYard is by far the easiest way to have a guest, to do a stream with a guest. It is 100% the easiest. It's definitely got a bunch of limitations, but it is the easiest. And the reason it's the easiest is because it's all browser based. There is no software to install. You click around to control it. Like, it's so simple. It uses a webcam, so if you have an ATEM Mini, you can at least get a good quality video into it through the USB. And then your guests join by just visiting a link. So they visit a link, open up their webcam or their ATEM Mini or other capture card. Super simple. The limits are that there's very few things you can actually control. You can overlay one graphic, you can overlay one, like a lower third, you can overlay a logo, and then that's about it. It sort of like automatically does the layout. So if you have two people, it'll do like a side by side, either full screen or like shrunken down. And as you add more guests, it just automatically redoes the layout, and you get very little control over it. But it's so simple. And I do recommend that as a very simple workflow for that kind of thing. Now, Ecamm Live, I haven't used myself too much. It's not cheap, but it's also a good option. And that's a lot more like a proper software switcher, where you can then bring a guest video in as a source. So then you can mix them in however you want, and you get a lot more control. It's also a good option, and a lot easier especially for the guests, compared to trying to get it to work with an ATEM. I really want to find a good workflow for bringing in a remote guest through the ATEM. The streaming bridge is supposed to be part of that workflow. Of course, it requires that the other end has an ATEM Pro that can stream to it. And then you also have more like port forwarding settings to mess with in your network and things like that. So doing it with the ATEM, as much as I love hardware solutions for that kind of thing, is more work than all the software ones. People are saying the stream died. I don't see any notifications here about that. YouTube thinks the stream has been fine the whole way through. I'm just going to blame random YouTube glitch on that. Cool. Okay. Back up now. Whatever. All right. DTech Logic. I have the ATEM Mini. Will it be advisable to upgrade to the ATEM Mini Pro or ISO? Really depends on what you're using it for. The ATEM Mini is so cheap that it's like almost no reason not to get one. So but if you don't need the features of the Pro, don't upgrade. Like, yeah. The main reason you'd want to upgrade is if you need multi-view or the ability to stream directly to YouTube. Otherwise, the ATEM Mini is totally fine on its own. And if you're just using it as a USB webcam, that is all you need. Didn't I do a Raspberry Pi image to turn it into a streaming bridge? I haven't released that as an image. I did do a tutorial on how to install the software onto one. I probably won't release one as an image just because I don't think that there's really a lot of value to doing that, because it'll still require some customization to make it work for you. So it's not, thankfully, it's not that much, it's not that bad to actually set all the things up. And the video I did 2 weeks ago is a step-by-step tutorial. This is a good question. Which should I invest more money in first, a camera or a microphone? I would say probably a microphone, because the sound, what people hear is, people are more sensitive to what they hear than to what they see. So if I like switch over to my laptop webcam right now, you'd still be able to understand what I'm saying with good audio, right? But people are much more tolerant of bad image quality than bad audio. If it was cutting in and out, or if I sounded like I was talking through a telephone, you would not stick around. Will you be able to test this out for us? The U-Ray Coder, wireless HDMI. I would like to buy it, but there's no actual review of it. Funny story. I actually have one that I've been meaning to test out. Well, I have been testing it. It's not the exact one that you mentioned here. I got the wired one, and because the wireless one's really expensive. And this is H264, not 265. But same idea. They make a whole bunch of different ones like this, and I've already gone back and forth with them a couple times on fixing some bugs with it. So, but I'm going to include it in a review video of where I compare a bunch of them. I've been working on this test clip of. Right, I can't show you the camera and also the... I can't show you the camera and also the multi-view, can I? Yes, I can. Okay. This frame is a test clip that I've been working on, and what it does is... Oh... What are you seeing? Okay, now you're seeing my computer screen. Sorry, I'm thinking through my signal chain here. It's really complicated. I need to move where this camera is plugged in. This camera being in the back of my chain is not working for me. So, okay, you're seeing that camera, which means if I show that on my screen, no, now you're seeing the multi-view. Okay, that's fine. You're looking at the multi-view. Good enough. Yeah, I need to move that camera higher up in the chain. So this clip on the screen, the one with all the little blippy blips happening, I've been working on that clip, and it is meant to push an encoder to the limit, to its limit. It's meant to find the limits of an encoder. So if you look, it's doing a lot of different things in there. It's like, first of all, it's got the little sound ticker running across the bottom. And that is for a sync test, so you can see how many frames off it is. It's got up in the, let's see, we've got like that noise tracks. It's 1 pixel noise, but they're changing and they're moving. There's 4 different tracks. You probably can't tell on YouTube because it's squished and also compressed through YouTube. And there's no way an encoder is going to encode every pixel of that properly, but you can see how much it's dropping. And then the one that looks like a big mush of gray, like down in the, let's see, actually I can point to it. This one. How do I do this? That one, right there. That one is actually a lines, horizontal and vertical lines of 1 pixel. So again, when it's scaled, it turns into a gray mush, but you can see how much it's munging your pixels. Anyway, each of these squares is doing something different, and this is what I'm going to be using to test the encoders to see how bad these things do with a really challenging video clip to encode. Now, that's not realistic, of course. Like, realistically, people don't encode video that is this much of a stress test, but the theory is that it'll find the limits of the encoder pretty quick. And while I was blabbing on about that, my background changed. Thank you for the super chat. Where is that? Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I am glad you were learning stuff. Always happy to share knowledge and help people learn this stuff. All right. Where was I? In the chat. I'm way behind. Wow. Okay. I'm all the way up here now. So, yes, it is automated. It is on a little track. It's going back and forth. Chris Love Media says, how fast internet do you need to stream from the ATEM Mini Pro? My buffer keeps getting full. You get to choose. That's the answer. You get to choose your streaming quality. So if you are set to a streaming quality that's faster, that's higher than your available bandwidth, your buffer will fill up. But you can choose to drop down to lower bandwidth. So make sure that you are at about, I would say, half of your available bandwidth. So you can run a speed test and then pick a streaming rate that's half of that. Upload speed. Make sure you're comparing the upload speed. And thank you for the super chat. Oops, that one. I appreciate it. Thank you very much, Stuart. All right, scroll back up, see how far behind I am. This is how far behind I am. Do you think the Raspberry Pi CPU will be able to handle both the Hyperdeck emulator and H2R graphics, or will I need a second Pi? I think it can probably handle it. I'm not sure you'd want to do that just for the workflow. Maybe it would work. I don't know. The thing is, H2R graphic, you need a good keyboard and mouse for it because it requires using the interface to control it. Actually, I guess you can automate it through a Stream Deck. So you could, if you were controlling it with something externally, it would probably be fine. That's interesting. Maybe I should try that next because I'm just wary of I guess I haven't thought to run H2R graphics on a Raspberry Pi because I always use stupid little keyboards like this, which are like not fun to use as a mouse and a keyboard because they're so small, but it's because normally I only need it for like 5 seconds when I'm setting it up just to make sure that it's like on the right screen. Are your glasses anti-glare or just normal? They are, I think they're just normal. It's just the lighting, the position that I have the lighting is not in a way that would reflect back into the camera. I don't think I can show, but the light is up. It's mounted to the back of this arm, so it's above the camera, and there's no way for it to like bounce back into the lens. This is a good question. Do you have a recommendation for a cheap wireless transmitter for video? Yes, I do, and that is the one that I'm using right now on the slider. This is the receiver for it. This is the Hollyland Mars Pro 300. And this is running off of a battery. Very small, no external antennas on the new one, which is super cool. And I've been trying that out. And I don't know why it's doing that, because I'm probably messing with it. But yeah, that's been great. So I really like that. Super small. I like that there's no external antennas, so it's nice and compact. There's a lot of other chat going on in here. Again, if you have a question for me, make sure you mention my name. Otherwise, I'm scrolling past it because there's a lot of good conversations going on in here. How do you create a local endpoint so you can use the network to input an RTMP or RTSP into vMix, keep USB for recording, and HDMI as multi-view? So you would, you're talking about from the ATEM Mini Pro streaming into vMix, keeping the USB for recording and HDMI as multi-view. Got it, yeah, you could totally do that. That is, you would actually need to do that with you could use a Raspberry Pi for that and do that the same way that I've got the streaming bridge emulator going. So with Nginx in the middle there, that is that endpoint, and then the ATEM Mini can stream to that, and vMix can pull from it. You could run that on your laptop as well if you could install the same software, but it's a little bit easier to do that on the Pi. Nathan says, still using the Lumix G7? Yes, I am. Any thoughts on the new Lumix G100? I don't know about the Lumix G100. What is that? I have no idea. Should I find out? Lumix G100? Is this a new camera from Lumix? Oh, I did see this when they announced it. I was disappointed because I want something that is smaller even than this. But it does look like a good camera, and it has a flip out screen, which is good. So I don't think I would replace mine with it, but I'm sure this is a great option if you are buying a camera for the first time. It does look like it's still more expensive than the G7. This is $800 with the lens. The G7 is still only $500. But I don't know the details. It probably is a better camera, probably polish off a few of the rough edges of the G7. All right, what is, had a question about bringing remote guests into a live stream via the ATEM Mini Pro. Did I miss a question? I don't see it. We talked about that a little bit. Until you have some time to add some sound blankets or tiles, you can use EQ to cut out some reverb. That's a good idea. I should probably do that. Any chance there will be more granular delay than by frames? By milliseconds will be better. Not really. So it is done by frames. Like that's how the signal processing works. You can convert frames to milliseconds if you know your frame rate. But I don't think that they have the ability to delay partial frames just in the way that works. Oh, I'm finally back to the part where I was messing with my audio. Everyone is saying, oh yeah, okay. So I should not mess with that. Is a Camlink style USB or field monitor the only possibility to record the multi-view? I would like to record cheapo multi-view. There's other kinds of recorders than field monitor recorders. So there's like there's like the gaming capture card style. So if you look for like people who are capturing video game playback or playing, there will be some capture devices that have an SD card slot on them, for example. There are other things like that that might be a little bit cheaper than a field monitor, like the Video Assist. The other option is using another ATEM Mini Pro, which I have two here, so I've been doing that, but I don't know if that's maybe not the easiest option. The field monitor, though, the Video Assist, I think is a really good option for capturing the multi-view, though, because then you can actually use it as a screen also. All right. Where was I? Any budget HDMI cameras that work great with the ATEM Mini? The G7 is my favorite budget camera. That's this one. And budget DSLR or mirrorless. And it's $500. I think there's a link down below for it. But this is great. It's permanently attached to my desk. Again, totally fine for this. It has some limitations, but for this purpose, it's perfect. The other option, if you want to go cheaper, is little camcorder style things. Those often don't look good in low light, and sometimes they don't have manual controls, which makes them a little bit awkward, but those are also good options, and you can get those for like $200 each. I use those for the conferences sometimes when I just need like a wide shot that I'm not going to use very often. So yeah. All right. Lots of chatter. Did you ever try conference calling? I have not yet. Still have been meaning to do that. That was where my stream died too. Weird. I still am trying to test out using the Raspberry Pi streaming bridge to have a conversation, which I don't think it's going to work well. So I'm going to try to figure out a way to work around that, but I haven't yet done that experiment. Roland says, I've hooked MacBook into an HDMI input on the ATEM Mini Pro. Yeah, move the guest audio session onto the ATEM virtual monitor, then send the guest audio out with audio hijack. Audio hijack is cool. That's a good way to like do fancy audio routing within a computer. And you can do some cool tricks with that. I'm blaming YouTube for that video streaming glitch because everything looked fine on this end the whole time. I will test my ATEM Mini Pro with the YOLO box. That's interesting. I feel like they're so different that I wouldn't even have a way to use them together. Will YOLO box work with all SIM cards? I actually don't know what cell antennas or whatever bands are in it. I suspect it'll work everywhere because they are selling it everywhere. Mine worked when I popped it in, which was cool. Thanks, Stuart. Yeah, GoPros are not good in low light. I agree. The low light cameras are hard. You're going to need bigger sensors and bigger lenses. That's really the solution there, which gets expensive and big. All right. John says, oh, I love StreamYard. Upgrade to the paid version. I did too. One limitation is the inability to run a radio mic mobile on an iPhone as you have to use Safari. No external mic support. Oh yeah, I didn't think about that. Safari does not support external mics on an iPhone. That is too bad. And now that the iPhones don't have a mic jack, then you can't even fake it that way. Bummer. Yeah, it's a good point. Sounds like a feature request for Safari to use external microphones. All right, scrolling through the chat. Looking at an H.264 encoder going for $299 on Amazon, which is cheaper than the yellow box, especially when you're on a budget. Okay, yeah, but like these little things are not anything like the ATEM Mini or yellow box. This is just the encoder. And you're gonna need a whole bunch more stuff on top of this in order to do anything except streaming one camera. So if all you are doing is streaming one camera and you don't need any control over it, then this or the ATEM Mini Pro is probably fine. But I suspect you're gonna realize real quick that you actually need a lot more parts to add to that kit in order to actually use it effectively. But one of the reasons I was actually started to look into this in particular, which is also why this project stalled out, I got this before the ATEM Mini Pro was out. And I was like, oh, this would be a great way to turn the ATEM Mini into something that can live stream, because this pops in on the back, and then now the ATEM Mini has a streaming encoder, super small. And then they announced the ATEM Mini Pro. And I was like, well, there goes that video idea. So yeah, oh well. All right. Oh, Curtis just started up. Ah, he's back on at 11 today. Okay, I should end this then to have everybody, send everybody over to go watch Curtis's channel. Let me see if there's anything else. I'm almost caught up with the chat. The pass-through cable does not seem to work well with the ATEM Mini Pro. Did you see this as an issue? I don't know what the pass-through cable is. I don't think mine came with any cables. I'm pretty sure mine just came as a monitor, and I've had zero problems with the ATEM Mini. Every cable I've thrown at it's worked fine. You can use an old iPhone as a camera. It's a practical low-cost camera. True, it is somehow iPhone is better at low light than the GoPro, and that is a very good point. And yeah, there's lots of options for using iPhones as a camera. We've talked through a bunch of them on the stream here, and that's actually why I use those at the conferences too with the Sling Studio, because also the iPhones can push directly to a Sling Studio, which is super cool. But yes, iPhones are a good option with HDMI out. Let me grab the link to Curtis's channel and have send you all out there. Go join Curtis's stream. So with that, I will leave it at that. And again, thank you all for joining. And we'll be back same time next week. And hopefully have more fun things to talk about. Oh, hopefully you got my email about the notification of the stream going live. I'm trying that out. So go subscribe if you're not already to that to get notified so that you don't miss a stream, because YouTube is terrible at sending out notifications. So thank you all for joining. Thanks for all the super chats. Fun conversations as always. And I will see you next week.